What's up, everybody? This is the Heartache Connoisseur Podcast, coming to you from the woods of Iowa. This is Marty Carpenter, MD, a psychiatrist, trained in the tradition of the great physician. Just a country psychiatrist out here in flyover country doing the Lord's work, here today to talk to you about perseverance. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That's a famous quote from the Tao Te Ching. And it's good at summing up what perseverance is. It's one step at a time towards a larger goal, oftentimes when it sucks. That's kind of what makes perseverance what perseverance is when it's hard. You know, it's like running a marathon, you know, or raising a child, or saving up for retirement, or learning a new skill like how to play the piano or something like this. You know, you persevere, don't you? That's how you get anywhere. Becoming a doctor took some perseverance on my part. And now, believe me, I've fallen off the wagon in so many ways over the years. So, look, I'm not a model of self-discipline by any means. My love handles prove that. But, you know, we can talk about this concept because it's super important, and it's something I've learned a little bit about working with people as they come through emotional difficulties. There's a major growth step when you kind of realize, you know, perseverance is something you don't really have a choice about, because you're here on planet Earth, and the life keeps dropping these crap grenades, one right after the other, in your lap, and you got to deal with them. Not dealing with them makes it worse overall. So at some point, you just got to buckle down. And I want to talk more about perseverance, partly as it pertains to accomplishing some goal, but partially what it means to just become a perseverer in general. So, you know, I'm a woodworker, right? And I like to make things. One time I made this set of cabinets. One of the cabinets had a bank of drawers. And I dovetailed these drawers. I went the extra mile. I used hard wood. Set up the jig. No, I didn't hand cut them. Could I? Probably, if I wanted to persevere and learn how to hand cut the dovetails, like all you woodworking purists out there. But I used a power tool. I used a router and a jig to cut these dovetails. Nevertheless, it took effort. And ultimately, when I went to fit the drawers into the cabinet, they were too wide. You know, it's like every single one of them. None of them fit in the hole. I was off by I don't know. I just brain farted or something and missed it by an inch. So what do you do in that moment? Well, you either scrap the entire project or you remake the drawers, you know, or you put a piece of artwork over the drawer slots. I'm not sure. But no, I remade them. And I turned the other drawers into scrap bins or something like that. But the idea is that sometimes you have setbacks, and perseverance is what it takes. And there's a trick to this. And what makes this palatable in the wood shop and in life, I think, is this realization that, what am I doing down here anyway? I'm down here woodworking. Eventually, I'm going to finish this. I'm woodworking for pleasure. I'm going to finish this, and then I'm going to start the next thing. And that's going to sit there unfinished for some number of weeks. Then the next thing. It's never finished. Not only that, I have a long list of projects, many of which I won't get to ever. So is it about finishing things? Because if it is, I can't win. Or is it about enjoying myself through the process of woodworking? In which case, every moment I'm in the shop is a win. That's what this takes. You gotta realize, look, this is about building something. Looking at my drawers that don't fit and saying, hey, I'll probably not do that again for another decade or so because I'm going to measure more carefully next time. And that's what this teaches you, is that when you do screw up, you just learn. You just got to learn. What else can you do? We get mad. We throw the tools. You know, we keep on working while we're mad, and we bang our hammer with the thumb or cut our hand off in the table saw, whatever it is. We do the metaphorical version of that in life. We get frustrated and we trash something. We take a baseball bat to the whole project. Hey, those were good cabinets. The rest of them were fine. Why are you destroying those with a maul? That's what we want to do. We just get so mad. It's like, what are we mad at? Well, we're mad at ourselves because we see ourselves as a failure, and we just did something to prove that that's true. And so we're frustrated. So that's what we deserve. We deserve to have our precious project destroyed. We punish ourselves. But we're never done. So enjoy the process. It's like graduating from medical school. What do you do when you get tired of being called doctor? Well, you keep on working. That's what. You show up every day, and there's a giant stack of charts and a mailbox full of phone calls, and you just do it. It's not glamorous. You work all this time, and everybody gives you, cards that say congratulations, which is lovely, by the way. I'm not poo-pooing that. But it's really just a moment in time that heralds a lifetime of hard work. So get used to it. Accept it for what it is and enjoy it. What choice do you have, really? I mean, the choice is to either accept it and find a way to enjoy it, or do it every day kicking and screaming. That's really what it boils down to. Now, thank God for goals. We need them. And this is what motivates perseverance. Perseverance changes over time. When we're young, it's often motivated by some goal. I'm going to make a certain amount of money. I'm going to get a certain degree. I'm going to meet a mate. I'm going to get myself in shape. I'm going to get my bench up to, 692 or whatever it is. But over time, as you accomplish these goals, or as certain goals fall out of reach because of your age, you have to modify your motivation. And that's a good thing. What we're doing here, instead of persevering to get something later, is we're persevering simply to become someone who perseveres, someone who can be relied upon, somebody who perseveres when nobody's looking. That's the goal. We persevere to become a person of integrity that leaves this world better than we found it. That, to me, is the ultimate point of learning how to stay with something and become a person of discipline and integrity, where it becomes less about the reward and more about the act of persevering as it pertains to benefiting either someone or a group of someones other than yourself. The reward then moves from personal to external. Paul talks about this. It's like he writes about running the race with perseverance till the end. And that dude was locked in prison a lot. Shipwrecked. He saw some hard times. He's probably fighting off scurvy. We think we have it hard, but that's what I mean. He was an example that many of us know about, of somebody who kept their chin up. And he was persevering for something that was completely unseen on the other side of death, which is the heavenly reward. But also to leave people with the knowledge of his teaching that he felt would benefit them as they became more aware of Jesus, etc. But the point is that if you want to find the deep motivation it takes to keep doing life in a way that's satisfying, you gotta move it away from what is this going to do for me to who am I becoming. Now, how do you do this? I mean, there's some practical advice on this perseverance thing, and it doesn't happen overnight. You got to learn this. And it does involve persevering in things that you don't enjoy often. I mean, my kids are great at persevering their way through video games. I mean, they'll persevere like 15 hours straight. I'm not kidding. I got this Nintendo Switch, and this comes with an app, right, for your phone. And I can get on there and see how much my kids have been playing. And it's been a real eye-opener. There's no hiding the facts, excuse me. I'm not going to admit in recorded form how many hours my oldest son spent playing Zelda last weekend. But let's just say it was a number in double digits. And I hope his mother never finds out. I'm certainly not going to tell her. But I'm gonna modify my habits a little bit. We're gonna take a look at how he's spending his time. But my point is that it's easy to persevere when we like it, and it's hard when we don't. So sometimes we quit. We fall off the wagon. We have this resolution, right? We're going to get in shape. We're going to lose weight. We stop. Well, that's fine. It's not that you stopped persevering. You just redefine this. You took a break, right? You're going to get back on the horse. You're going to go back to the gym. You're going to resume your studies or your meditation practice or your reading or whatever it is. You're just going to resume that. And that is persevering. And you got to install habits. You don't just occasionally do the thing that's hard that you're trying to do. You build it in. It becomes part of your life, and you install it in such a way that's doable. I mean, nobody's going to sit there and do something they hate for 8 hours straight, and why would you try? But what can you do? Can you do 15 minutes? Can you do 5? So start with 5 and work up. Things do get easier over time. And it takes time. I mean, I think there's a learning curve that people really get frustrated. I remember when I got out of practice, out of residency, and started into private practice, and all of a sudden I'm seeing patients with by myself, really, and taking the full responsibility for the outcome, and not really knowing what I'm doing as a seasoned clinician. I know some of the book stuff, and I've had a little practice there, but it's kind of like flying solo for the first time. And that was the most intense part of the learning how to be a physician, was when I was ultimately flying solo. It was after the lessons had stopped, and it was when I was left to learn my own lessons. And that was a hard time. I mean, that really wore me out and burned me out in a lot of ways. But as you get better at something, it becomes ever more pleasurable. And that's an important point. I mean, there is a period of time where you just have to do it, even though it's hard, and have some faith that as you become more and more competent, that it's going to be enjoyable. And you got to learn how to reframe what you're calling failure. The things in your mind that you say are inadequate about yourself in this quest to persevere. The times that you consider yourself to have been a failure. I look back on some of my patient encounters, nobody does this perfectly. And once in a while, I brought somebody to work who wasn't my best self, and I had some kind of an interaction with somebody that really went south, and it felt bad for them, and it felt bad for me. And over the years, that's been hard to swallow, or really even the worst case is when, somebody that you've been working with decides to take their own life. And you look back on that, and it does in some ways put you in a headspace of self-blame. Well, what if I had done this instead? What if I had changed their meds this way or that way? Or, at the end, the reframe is, hey, first of all, you're not perfect. Second of all, there's a lot of things you don't have control over. Cut yourself a break. Are you doing more good than harm out here? So that's the thing that I have to tell myself. And whatever it is that you're persevering in, you have to have some version of that conversation with yourself. And really the secret of this whole thing is to learn how to find joy in the moment. And I've talked about this a number of times, learning how to meditate, get centered, find some activity that brings you into the moment where you're able to hear all of the sounds in the room, feel all of the textures on the things in your environment, smell the things that you're eating and cooking, notice the temperature of the water that you're washing your hands under, and that kind of thing. Paying attention to someone who's talking to you, their mannerisms, their gestures, the movements of their mouth and their eyes. This is what it means to live in the moment. And when you get there, suddenly you're not bored anymore. And one of the things that makes perseverance so hard is boredom. And the way you beat boredom is you get in the moment in the ways that I just described. When I'm in the shop, sometimes I find myself in a hurry and I make mistakes and I don't measure accurately. And then I remind myself, what are you doing down here? You're woodworking for pleasure. Find pleasure. You're turning this into a job that you don't like simply by the way you're thinking about it. And we can do that with anything. We can do that with parenting, the job that we have at work, our relationships, for God's sakes. We can turn our relationship into a duty that is not fun at all. It's like somewhere along the line we forget to tell our kids, and we don't pick up the message that the things we do can be enjoyable. We can find fun in the things that we do, and that's okay. It's almost like we believe that it's not worth it unless we're suffering. Not true. Who wants to suffer? I mean, you're going to suffer because you're on earth, and that just goes with it. But a good portion of our suffering that we perceive is brought upon ourselves simply by the mindset we bring to the activity. And I want to tie this concept of perseverance into love. And I fundamentally believe that the act of persevering is a form of self-love. People often say to me, how do I love myself? I look in the mirror like, is it Stuart Smalley or whatever? I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. No, that's not really it. Self-love is acts of service to yourself and a willingness to alter the beliefs you have about yourself over time as those acts of service toward yourself begin to shape you into somebody different. That's why it's powerful. I mean, you accomplish things that are hard, and you begin to see yourself as one who accomplishes things that are hard. Someone with strength and durability. Someone who could be relied upon. Someone who gives a damn about somebody else. That's okay to believe that about yourself. And one of the ways you get there is you accomplish something. That's one of the reasons I actually love woodworking, is because when I'm done with something difficult, I have this thing sitting in front of me that's beautiful. Like, whoa, one step at a time got me to this beautiful piece of furniture that likely will become, I hope, a family heirloom for my children. And it really was this journey of 1,000 miles beginning with a single step. It's one bored through a saw. It's one stroke of the sandpaper. It's one swipe of the hand plane. It's one step at a time, building something beautiful. And that is our life. And do this for the sake of somebody else. Do meet your own goals because you love yourself, so you can be better for the people in your life. That you can be more reliable, more loving, more there for them, more stable, more solid. Everybody needs somebody who won't give up on them. And many of us don't have that. And many of us have never had that. And many of us have experienced people giving up on us, and the pain and the sting of being told that we're losers, that we're a failure, that will never amount to anything, whether it's spoken directly or indirectly. And it hurts, and we believe that about ourselves, but that can change. That is not a life sentence. But we do hit a point in our lives where nobody's going to come and apologize for that. And we realize this cosmic apology that we've been waiting on all these years isn't coming. And that even though we got the shaft, the responsibility for our lives becoming something meaningful falls to us. And that's just the way it is. And that's when you overcome. That's when you look at your past and you say, I beat these odds. I did this with grit and determination. And if we're honest, with a little help from above. You might say God perseveres. God never gives up on us. And that's one of the motivators. We persevere because he does. So he is that somebody for us. When you don't have that in your life, when you don't have a father figure or a mother figure that believes in you, when you don't have a partner that believes in you, when you don't have a support system or a cheerleader, you do have God, and he meets you in those places. And even if you do have a support system, those folks are imperfect. So consider that. Consider the nature of what it took to make this planet we're walking around on. I mean, think about this concept of millions of years, billions of years to become what we see today. Infinity leading up to this moment in time. And you get some idea of what we're modeling ourselves after. Patience. Leave those cookies in until they're done. You pull them out early, you screw up the batch. And that's the way it is with our lives. We got to just stay with it until it's done. And you can do it. I believe in you, fellow heartache connoisseurs. Hey, well, that about does it for today. Check out my Patreon page. _heartache_connoisseur. Actually, just go to my website, theheartacheconnoisseur.com. Scroll down to the bottom. There's a link to my Patreon page. I'd love to have your support. And if this means something to you, participate. Help me persevere in this endeavor. Coming down here every week and giving you one of these things. Help motivate me a little bit. I'd appreciate it very much. Hey, I hope you have a great day. And we'll see you next time.